So this was my first real visit to Łódź. I have been to Łódź before. So Łódź is generally speaking a more difficult place. This time I really walked the spaces more. I've got a good idea of where Pomorska is, Piotrkowska is, the areas where my parents walked, and it was very moving. My intention for going to Łódź was part family history, part cemetery. I spent most of the time in the cemetery with my friend journalist Karen Pakula, who was looking for her family origins. I didn't spend too much time looking for my family graves there because I will come back. Of great interest to me in Łódź is the field which is unmarked, where the bodies from the ghetto are buried, and there's quite a few missing documents. So there are documents that existed. There's about 100,000 that have been taken from the main lot, which we're trying to recover. So there are people who are trying to restore. There's a few organisations and individuals who'd like to help restore the cards, but there are a significant number missing. There's a bit of missing stuff going on at the moment. So I was a bit involved in the kahila, and I met people from the kahila, and they seem very nice. I think Łódź, like Poland, has a lot of people who are discovering their Jewish roots. It's complex, and I think Łódź is one of the most complex areas in that regard. I think there isn't, or maybe it's like that all over Poland, but I haven't travelled all over Poland, but it does have a Jewish presence. It is a presence of difference, so many layers. So you have from the one extreme where you have somebody who's just identified one Jewish grandparent, all the way to people who are halachically Jewish for many generations. And just getting a bird's eye view into that community and not making judgments, it's just looking at what's going on there was very interesting and painful for me. I'm talking about the personal, and I'm talking about something beautiful. So monumental is grand and big and very heavy, and it is. That's what it was. The catastrophe of the Holocaust, which it was on the Jewish people, is that. But in amongst that, what I think as a visual person, what I don't get from the monument is the detail. Maybe it's about 1.5 beautiful lives that were cut short, that never had the opportunity to blossom. The only monument, the only exhibit that I've seen which captures that is Yad Vashem, when you go into the room of the stars. And that's really important. I think it allows people another, it allows people in a way that I think big commemorative pieces allow people in a way to dismiss. Yeah, I've heard it. Yeah, and I think that's what's happening now in the narrative, and I don't think in the Jewish narrative, but I think in the narrative of the bigger population, it's not accessible. And I think if we lose the accessibility of what we're trying to say, that's a problem. And I now, more than any time before in my life, I didn't believe that I would see in my lifetime the rise of anti-Semitism as it is now, and the changing of the narrative and the changing of perception. Well, it's not a change of perception, it was always there, it just was covered by political correctness. Political correctness is now open. There's no political correctness around the Holocaust, around racism, around anything, feminism. There's nothing that's holding. There's no government legislative area which says, that's not okay to say that. Go away and think about why that's not okay to say. It's not okay to say that. So people can say whatever they want. I mean, I saw that now in Kazimierz as well.
So what you saw in Kazimierz?
Well, there were the usual, Deborah Lichstadt was there, Jan Grabowski, and the questions that came from the floor were eye-opening for me. So one woman stood with rage at young Grabowski, like she was trembling with anger, and said, so, and which other countries are you talking? Are you talking about France? Are you talking about, and Hungary and all those other countries, like, so it was like a defense. It's like, why are you pointing the finger at Poland? Why aren't you pointing the finger at everybody else instead of, oh my God, that happened here and that's a terrible thing. That's not what was coming out of this woman's mouth. I mean, he managed it and he just said, well, because I'm talking about Poland. That's the whole point. But what was astonishing for me was the visible rage, not just the rage in her voice, but she was trembling. And the questions that came from the floor were of that calibre, very defensive, very protective of Polish memory. And I'm not going into the right or the wrong of it. I'm just going, this is an observation which needs to be made. And then what do we do with that? Okay, so there it is. And now as educators, how do we manage that? So, and then I had discussions with other people who live in Kazimierz, and I said, a generation, really, because 20 years with Dialogue of the Nations, doing amazing, fantastic work. Really, really excellent work. And Kazimierz, and the people as well as I do who are doing work on the ground, it's like, and where are the young voices? Where are the voices of that generation going, hey, wait a minute, we don't agree with that. That's not okay. Why are you doing that? There's nobody who knows how to stand up, or maybe they agree. And in my conversations with people who have young kids who've grown up at the same time with people who are involved in the festival, I said that's right, that their children's friends are nationalists, have become the beginning of anti-Semitism in that generation. I'm going, what did I miss? How did this happen? Where is it? And again, I'm looking at very narrow view. I don't live in Poland. I'm coming from outside, and I'm in a bubble, right? Kazimierz Festival is a bubble cultural festival. So I'm a lot of people who think like me in one small place and exposed to lots of different ideas and what's going on. So that was very interesting for me and important. It's not to be, not to collapse under it, but it's to say, okay, something we thought we were doing was right, and we're really not. And so in my discussion with the woman whose child's friend has anti-Semitic friends, she said, well, it's education. I said, it's not education, because we know that the education's been good. We know who's been conducting the education here. I said, I think it comes from the home.